disciple of the living Christ, the answer to that question is always a yes. Exercise for key 1. Okay, at the end of each key, we have an exercise. Exercise for key 1. This is the practical exercise for key 1. What I need you to do in the coming 33 days is to follow a regimen of 2 exercises. I want you to read or listen to Archangel Michael's dictations and give his rosary once a day. See the appendix for the text of both the dictation and the rosary. So I will have to record this section of the appendix for the next video. If you want to be able to make your exercise. In the beginning of the rosary, where you can make your personal calls, I want you to give the following call. In the name of the I am that I am, Jesus Christ, I call to you, beloved Archangel Michael, to cut me free from any ties to the planetary momentum of the death consciousness. Cut me free from the downward pull of the collective consciousness, especially its resistance toward change and the tendency to reject new ideas without giving them proper consideration. At the end of the page, it's written, a recording of the dictation and the rosary will be available as part of the Spiritual Crisis Toolkit. See astraljesus.com in the bookstore section. Yes, so maybe you have that recorded also if you want to buy it in the bookstore. Okay, the call that Jesus asked us to do, it continue on the next page. Beloved Jesus, expose to me the beam in my own eye in the form of any resistance in my being toward expanding my awareness, considering new ideas, and taking responsibility for my own path and salvation. Beloved Jesus, I am willing to be your disciple and to start by seeing the beam in my own eye. Show me the way. The second exercise is that after you have given the rosary, I want you to take 5 to 15 minutes and contemplate the teachings in this key, perhaps by reading a few paragraphs. I want you to honestly consider where you might notice any of the elements of resistance in your own psyche. I want you to think back at your life and consider how you might have resisted learning something new or coming to a higher understanding. I want you to consider how you might still feel a subtle resistance in your being toward the teachings I give in this course, or even the entire idea of a spiritual path that requires you to question everything. I strongly suggest that you buy a durable notebook in which you can write down your impressions. You will be doing a fair amount of writing in order to follow this course, so you might as well get used to the idea. Write down your impression and describe how you have been reluctant to learn something new or see elements in yourself that need to change. Also, write down how you have overcome such reluctance and eventually move beyond, and how this has made you freer than you were before. In other words, I want you to consider the process you have gone through in order to achieve the openness of mind that has made you willing to study this course. What opposed that progress? What aided it? What enabled you to overcome the opposition, and how did it feel to do so? By the end of the 33 days, I expect you to have a clearer view and a greater appreciation for your willingness to go beyond limitations, so that you begin to see that you have already passed many hurdles and thus should be able to pass many more. Perhaps you might even begin to sense that if you are willing to surrender, you will be able to pass any hurdle that the forces of this world, including your ego, might come up with. Obviously, we are at the beginning stages, but I want you to lock in to the fact that you have gone through a process in order to be ready for this course. This should spur you on to make greater progress, and by understanding the basic mechanism for how you got here, you should be able to avoid the trap of thinking you have already made it to the finish line. By understanding how you overcame limitations, you set a foundation for overcoming the more subtle challenges on the path, challenges that you do not yet have the awareness to even understand. By writing down your impressions, you also set the foundation for performing one of the tasks that is an integral part of the higher stages of the path to Christhood. What I want to accomplish in this first key is to help you see that you have already been following the spiritual path for this and likely many previous lifetimes. You might not be consciously aware that you have been doing it, or you might not be fully aware of how you have been doing it. My point being that by coming to a more conscious awareness of the process of growth, you can take that growth to a much higher level and build an unstoppable momentum of self-transcendence, a momentum that neither the enemy within, your ego, or the enemy without, the forces of Antichrist, can stop. Take a look at how much humankind has progressed from the Stone Age to today. What is the central mechanism behind this growth? It is a growth in understanding, a growth in awareness. Humankind knows so much more today, and modern people have a much more expanded awareness of themselves and their world. Thus, by you becoming more consciously aware of the spiritual growth you have already gone through, you can accelerate that growth immensely. Expanded awareness is the first step, and the second step, and the third step, and so on ad infinitum. Yet now take this to a higher level. Where does expanded awareness begin? It begins by expanded self-awareness, the willingness to look at yourself and realize there is something you don't know, something you need to know, and then take action to expand your understanding. This is a course in personal Christhood, and the one thing you should have learned by now is that the living Christ will never accept status quo. Thus, you might as well realize that for the rest of your life and beyond, you will be in the process of personal growth. As I said, you have already been engaged in this process, but I'm now asking you to take this to a higher level by becoming more aware of the process. In other words, I'm asking you to increase your self-awareness. How can this be done? There is only one way: through objective, honest, penetrating self-observation. Why did I talk about those who look at the mote in their brother's eye and see not, last page, the beam in their own? because the majority of human beings are looking outside themselves and refusing to observe themselves and recognize how they need to change. This is following the broad way that leads to destruction, and you simply cannot walk the path of personal Christhood if you are not willing to observe yourself. Thus, I'm asking you to have your notebook next to you as you study this book or as you watch these videos. Keep a certain amount of attention on your reactions to this book, to these videos. An essential part of the path is to expose your ego so the conscious self can separate itself from it. The separation will happen easily once you see the ego and see it from what it is, and your ego knows that its only chance of staying alive and keeping its control over you is to stay hidden. It is possible, not easy, but possible, to follow this course and have your ego stay hidden. So if you want to make it impossible for your ego to stay hidden, cultivate the habit of observing your ego's reactions to the ideas I present in this book. Be ready to write down any subtle or overt resistance to the ideas and the change I am calling you to make. Do you see what I am saying? So far, your ego has been able to fool you in many ways because you have not noticed its subtle manipulations. If you read this book without observing yourself, your ego will likely be able to continue to do this behind the scenes because you will not be aware of how it manipulates you into not truly seeing or accepting what I will be telling you. You will not see the subtle ways in which it seeks to neutralize my teachings. Yet, if you cultivate the habit of observing yourself for the specific purpose of exposing your ego's resistance to change, you will put your ego in a dilemma. You will put your ego in a catch-22 instead of allowing your ego to keep you in a catch-22. Okay, you will put your ego in a catch-22 instead of allowing your ego to keep you in a catch-22. How so? Because if the ego does nothing to manipulate you into resisting the change I will be calling for, you will change and then free yourself from its control. And if the ego does do something to get you to resist change, you will likely expose it and see it for what it is, whereby you will also free yourself from it. Excuse me. Your ego and the prince of this world have for a long time attempted to manipulate you into situations where you are damned if you do and damned if you don't. It is time to reverse roles and put them in the same predicament. In the next video, it will be key to confront your fears. But maybe before I will record the text needed for the exercise. Thank you very much for your patience with that. Maybe you watched this video in many parts because it was a long video. This book is a book that we can read many times in our life, so I hope with this video it will be the same thing. Sometimes people will watch, they will stop for some days, weeks, months, years, and they will come back. So we have a lot of things to understand and to change, and we have to be vigilant, like Yeshua said, Jesus said, to our inner reactions. And if you practice the exercise, you will see also that it's written in a way very special by the Archangel Michael, and we have many reactions. In the video this summer, I said it's like a little exorcism. I'm not sure it's a good word in English. I think that it's a good word. So you can watch my series of videos in the park. The sound is not very good because we have all the noises in the park outside. But one video is about le retour, the return, and the other one a little exorcism. And I talk about the books of Jesus and what are the reactions of our ego when we read that, when we meditate on that, when we talk about that. There is a part inside of us who don't want to change, to learn, to discover things to change, who just want to have a normal life, and with that we die and we have another incarnation and another life with a normal life, and we die again and we have another reincarnation with a normal life, and it's continuously the same thing, the same problems, the same conflicts, the same human limitations. If we want to know and to be our divine nature, we have to learn, to practice, to change, to offer, to give, to share. You will understand all that with all the course, all the chapters. And when you multiply your talents, like as it was explained in another chapter, you will receive more and more and more. If you give, you will receive. If you don't want to give to others, why? Your inner being or the masters or the archangels should give you things if you keep all that for you. So it's a big current of transmission, of helping us together. Together? Yes. No S. Okay, thank you again, and have a nice end of day.